Okay, let's get started. We are just starting, because video when they see that, hey, I already cover myself. Who am I? My name is Canan, and you can see the stuff. We already talk about some essential terminologies, and we already explain vulnerability and exploit. And zero-day attack is, as I already mentioned, it's not publicly available. You are the only human being you know that vulnerability. And the best part of zero-day vulnerabilities is they are very rare to find, and also they are very expensive. If you have a 0 day in your hand, for example for Google Chrome, you probably can sell that approximately between 100,000 to maybe $1 million. If you can somehow get a remote code execution on a Google Chrome, it's going to bring you a lot of money. But please, and I have a slide for that. Please do not use these 0 days for unethical purposes. It's only be useful for either for penetration testing, or you can report this 0 day vulnerability to the vendor. Okay. And the other terms are not that important. Maybe the payload, because we are going to use that in the exploit part. Payload is actually the part of an exploitation process. In exploitation, you usually send a canvas to an vulnerable system, and the payload is actually your exact intent that you would like to run on that system. So payload is usually used as a driver for an exploitation scenario. Since in exploitation, if you can give an example for that, exploitation is actually killing a driver. Okay, if you kill a driver, you need to put somebody else to the seat, so he can drive the car. If you don't put anybody, it's going to hit the wall, and it's called as denial of service. If you put yourself as a driver in the driver's seat, you are going to have the control of that car, and it is called as payload. Okay. So the steps of ethical hacking. We usually have 5 steps. First one is reconnaissance, and this one is also the most important one, because if you don't run enough reconnaissance for a target system, you're going to probably end up with a lot of noise, and also you are going to have a difficulty to take advantage or take control of the system. So reconnaissance is collecting the information for the target system, and it has 2 important parts. One is passive scanning, the other one is active scanning. Passive scanning usually stands for scanning a target system without touching them. Maybe you can think that, hey, wait a minute, how can I scan a target system without touching them? There are plenty of ways to do that. So actually we are going to cover that today. And after passive scanning, you are going to continue with active scan. And active scan has to be taken carefully, because when you run an active scan, you are actually hitting a firewall or IPS or network system, which may cause a noise or cause an alarm or firewall or IPS rule to trigger. Maybe your IP address can be blacklisted or whatever. Okay, so what you need to do is, even for an active scan, you just can't start at, hey, I'm going to use Nmap to scan a target system. Hey, wait a second. Just collect enough information for the target system, whether it is vulnerable or not, whether you have an ability to run, if you can discover the version of the system. Maybe you can have an idea approximately what's going to happen. That's why the passive reconnaissance should give you enough information for active reconnaissance. The other one is actually, when you get enough information for active and passive reconnaissance, you are going to run a scanning. Scanning means actually running either port scanning, version scanning, or you are going to run an vulnerability scan. In most cases, Nmap is going to be useful even for vulnerability scan, but since Nmap script engine library has a limited capacity, therefore you need to run an actual vulnerability scanner like Nessus, NetSparker, Akinetics, or Nexpo, something like that. So there must be an vulnerability scanner for that too. We are going to cover that in the next session. And the third part is actually gaining the control. So in this part, actually you need to be careful, because gaining the access may not be your job. Okay? Since you're a penetration tester, you're not actually a hacker. So your duty is finding the vulnerability only. You are not responsible for exploiting and taking advantage of that. In some cases, your customer may ask you that, hey, I want you to run a penetration testing from the beginning to end. That is usually called as APT scenario, Advanced Persistent Threat Scenario. In this case, you are going to take advantage of the vulnerabilities, you are going to exploit the vulnerabilities, you are going to, run the post-exploitation steps and all of them. So you can actually not testing their public assets, you are also testing their internal security devices, because there are some security devices on the local network like security incident event management tools, log management tools, or even passive network traffic sniffers. They also need to be tested. So in the gaining access part, you usually try to escape them too. It doesn't mean that you get an shell. It doesn't mean that you can run every script you want. You still have to be careful because there are a lot of security devices in the environment too. Maintaining the access is actually the next stage after gaining the access, because if you get an access to a target machine, you usually stay in that machine as long as possible. Okay, because the next time when you visit that machine, you do not want to run the scanning, vulnerability scanning, all these parts. You would like to get the shell as quick as possible. Let me give you an interesting example for that. And when we were actually responding to a forensic investigation, and we saw that there is a shell, actually web shell, available on a web server, which means that a hacker already exploited this web server and put a backdoor on that server, using that backdoor to access the internal stuff. So the interesting part is the web server is not actually vulnerable. So we were curious about that, how this is possible. This server is pretty much updated and there is no vulnerability. How is this possible? The interesting thing is actually the hacker found that vulnerability, exploit that, gain the access, then patch the vulnerability. So I saw that's impossible. But yeah, actually he fixed the vulnerability because he knows that somebody else also may discover this vulnerability. So actually what he is doing is maintaining the access by securing himself from not being discovered, and also blocking the other hackers. So he would like to have that control of that machine only. So that is the maintaining access, and clearing the tracks is actually, this is not your job, by the way. You never, on a penetration testing, you never clear a track. Okay, never ever, even for an APT test. You left your footprints on your environment, so other security analysts try to investigate the case, and this is useful for you because if let's say you run a penetration testing and your customer saying that, hey, I have a data loss, you are the responsible. You have to prove that you didn't do anything wrong. So please keep the footprints on your machine. But hackers, they try to delete their tracks. My advice is this, and I'm going to show you a great example at the end of this section. I'm going to teach you a lot of cool stuff so you can actually have an ability to hack a number of servers on the internet. If you use that for a bad habit, if you use it unethically, it's your problem first. Second, if they hire me for a forensic investigation, probably I'm going to find you because you're too novice for that. Okay, so please stay away anything wrong, because you are going to left a lot of track behind you. So I'll probably catch you if you do something wrong. Okay, this is just a reminder. So what are we doing now? We're actually providing you an ethical hacking. Ethical hacking means we are going to identify the vulnerabilities. We are not going to do anything wrong. Actually, this is something like being a doctor. We are going to discover disease on a patient. So we are going to find the vulnerabilities. We are not responsible for exploiting the vulnerabilities, but in some cases your customer may ask to, hey, I want to make sure that whether you still can exploit this vulnerability, because a vulnerability is not as bad if they are not exploitable, because you can accept some vulnerabilities in your environment. In risk management, you can transfer risk, you can accept risk, or you can mitigate the risk. Depending on the value of the mitigating the risk, it depends. If it is exploitable, you should probably choose mitigating the risk. If it's only a vulnerability but there's no exploitation for that, he may accept that risk, because the exploitation phrase actually defines whether you should mitigate the risk or not. Okay? So in some cases you need to exploit, but in the next session I'm going to talk about the exploitation phase 2. It's going to be a lot exciting than scanning. So we are going to run an security assessment, as we already mentioned. So our expectation, as I already ask you that these questions, in technical skills, hackers usually have a lot of different technical skills. It doesn't mean that you should only know some tools and Kali Linux and Nasus and all the vulnerability scanner. It doesn't mean that. Actually, you should know very good. You should be very good in networking, and you should be very familiar with TCP/IP and protocols and the layer 2 to layer 7 protocols. You should know every single protocol, which layer they are running. Okay. Because if you would like to exploit something, you should know the protocol definition. If you don't know anything about the network protocols, there is no meaning that you should run man in the middle in the, let's say, ISP level, because you're trying to run an ARP spoofing, but you are running on your layer 3 network. It doesn't work because the ARP spoofing runs on layer 2, but you're on layer 3, so it's a different layer. So you have to know very good, at least CCNA level networking to be an ethical hacker. The second one is you should be very familiar with Linux environment and also command line. In most cases, we are not going to see a Windows machine while we are running a penetration test. Okay, there are a few tools you runs on Windows. One of them is Focha. I don't know whether there are more, but the only thing I know now in my mind, but the rest is running on Linux. Okay, so you gotta be very familiar with Linux. So how many people are actually using either Mac or Linux? Good, very good number. Yeah, very good. Mac also is very good candidate for penetration testing because it has also a good terminal. So you can use their environment too, but try to not to install every single tool on your Mac. You should have a separate virtualized Kali Linux. It should be a good idea. You still can use your Windows machine if you set up an Kali Linux. It's also fine, but we usually prefer a Linux machine if possible. And also you need to know a little bit development. Okay, development phrase is usually useful for you to run and batch scripting and also Python script. As a penetration tester, you need to automate something in most cases because your customer is not going to have two different machines. This lab is very simple, but let's say you have a 90,000 machine in your environment and they have lots of different subnets and they give you lots of list of subnets and machines and IP addresses and names. So you gotta have an ability to eliminate this list and cut them and structurally split them to different parts. So therefore you need to have a really good programming or at least batch scripting capability. Non-technical skill, you should be eager. Let's find another good word for that. You should be dying to learn. Okay. For an ethical hacking, the most important one is you should be excited. Your eyes should be asking for everything, and you should be dying to learn everything. Okay. And my famous saying is that we should know everything as good as possible. Okay, it doesn't mean that you should know only security. You should know development. You should know networking. You should know everything. And let me say something. Everybody in this room have a capability to be a CTO of Google. Okay, it's easy for everybody because they are also human beings. It doesn't mean that they have an ability to learn something before you. You still have a great chance to be a Google CTO. Okay, so please, if you see something strong, ask me, and let's get this learning curve as quick as possible. So you are going to learn faster if you hit the some basics. The other one, important one, ethical. Please stay in ethical environment. Even for a joking for your, let's say, your wife or your friend, stay away from that. Okay. please do not hack anybody unless you deliberately say that, hey, I'm going to run a test. Can I? Okay? If you don't do that, please do it. Don't hack anybody. That's why actually I use my personal hotspot. I didn't connect to this Wi-Fi. In most cases, when I run this ethical hacking stuff, people are trying to hack me. That is interesting. So please don't do that. Okay, please be aware of the laws and standards, and because if you do something wrong, even for a scanning of an active scan for a target, it's criminal. Okay, it's not under law, so you may go to jail even if you run a simple Nmap scan. Okay, run only a target that you really have an authority to scan them. So, okay, last 2 or 3 slides, we are going to jump to technical stuff. Penetration testing, we already covered that. We are going to find the vulnerabilities. Sometimes we are going to simulate the vulnerabilities, and we are going to document and report these things because your customer is not expecting you, hey, I have a shell, I hack you, I'm now domain administrator. So what the hell? I mean, your customer is not asking you that you're powerful. They are asking you how did you find these vulnerabilities and where it is? How can I fix that vulnerability? So your responsibility is not only the finding the vulnerability. You should have a proper solution for that for your customer, because in most cases your customers have no idea how to patch or how to secure their system. Okay, your report should also include the solution. There are 3 different penetration testing. If you are planning to be an ethical hacker or penetration tester, your customer may say that, hey, you are going to run a black box test, which means you only know my company name, nothing else. Okay, rest is up to you. Find the vulnerabilities, get the control of the system, do whatever you can do. Okay, this is blacklist. White box is actually they are giving you the source code and also the permission for running the penetration testing. Since you have the source code of the target system, you can identify the problems and you can make sure that, hey, this is vulnerable. And this white box test usually run for web applications, but black box test is usually for system penetration testing. There is a gray box test. It is also have an between black box and white box. They are giving you an ability to, let's say, whitelisted on IP, on firewall and IPS devices, but you have a limited knowledge about the target system still. But you still have a plenty of more rights than a regular hacker. We usually prefer gray box, by the way, because white box, you still have a white box test, but customer usually not to give you source code to a third-party company, because source code is actually includes a lot of intellectual property. They don't want to give you that. So black box is difficult for us because it's taking a lot of time, because we know that there are firewalls and IPS and all the security devices. So in order to escape that, we need to be silent, okay? Which means it's going to be take more than usual. So gray box is actually between of them. Okay, if you're interested in reading documentation, where should I start? Actually, the web application penetration test, we are going to cover that, but if you would like to start before me, you can take a look at OWASP, Open Web Application Security Platforms testing guide. It's a really nice testing guide, and I strongly advise you to take a look at that. The OSTEM is also another good document that explains the system penetration testing. And these documents includes not only the penetration testing, but also the how can you identify the vulnerabilities, okay? So they are really good, nice stuff. Okay, let's start with passive scanning. So Google hacking database, has anybody heard this before? GHDB, Google Hack Database. This is the simplest and easiest way to hack a company. So actually, this is as I understand from its name, we are taking advantage of Google, which means Google provides us a hackable system, a vulnerable system. How? First of all, Can you guys visit exploitdb.com? It's a famous hacker site, ExploitDB. And this site actually includes a lot of exploits in their hands. Actually, these guys are also the provider of Kali Linux. So they have a pretty nice, database which includes the exploits. But they have a special one at here, which is Google Hacking Database. When you click on that, they includes a lot of different categories, and this category is actually the as it's understand from its name, it includes some sensitive information. For example, vulnerable servers. Let's click on that, and it says that there's an explanation for that. Bin bash, Intex, bin bash, OpenSSL. Let's click on one of them, and I'm not sure whether you're going to find any, but let's try a couple of them at least. Locus for shell in text software. Okay. So it's basically saying that when you run extension :CGI in URL :CGI-bin and in-text this tags in Google, it's going to bring you some vulnerable servers, as it is seen. And let me find some. Okay, how about this one? And the first page is not going to be, maybe include some vulnerabilities, but okay, how about this? And no, I don't think so. This is not includes anything. No, I don't like this one either. Okay, let's find another. Oh, it's not searching what I want. Let's pick this. Okay, and let's get rid of this. Pardon me? Wireless, man. Wireless?
Yeah.
I think it's on the wall. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, here we have a good example of them. Have you ever seen something like that? That's a really stupid mistake. Is there any developer here? I believe so. Can you explain this for us? Which includes this? It includes actually an vulnerability saying that there is an exception on SQL query, which means this guy has a problem when you set an ID like this way. And it's saying that you have an error in your SQL syntax. There's a problem with SQL. So what exploitation vector do you have in your mind? Does anybody have an idea?
SQL injection.
Exactly, yeah. SQL injection. Actually, we didn't run this system, right? We actually used some Google queries, and it just gives us this vulnerability. So there are a lot. You can't believe that. And some people actually having a rank for that. And let me show you a site for that. And people are actually competing with each other to hacking the sites, and there is a ranking for this. So these guys, actually, they are posting an hacked website. As you can see, there are a lot of .com, and also there are a lot of .gov sites available. They are hacked. And this mirror, let me click on one of them, actually includes a snapshot of that hacked. It's actually the proof of hack. And let me load unsafe script because it includes an iframe at here. Okay. So you can see that it's saying that hacked by Tabres hacker, and it has a really nice music behind the scenes. So, actually, these guys. Okay, shut up. It's not a good. It's not. People are saying that they are a good hacker since they hack a website on the internet and the other end of the world. So, not they are not actually hackers. They are just script kiddies. These are the terms that you can see that Google Hack Database allows you to hack a server on the internet. Okay, these guys are script kiddies and they are hacking a lot of sites on the internet. But when you give them a real target, let's say Bank of America, try to hack this. It's really complicated because they have a lot of security stuff. They don't do the stupid mistakes as you can see on the Google search. So it is pretty difficult for that. But these guys are actually, as you can see that, this man actually submitted a lot of hacks and even in a minute, you can see. So actually they are using a bunch of automated scripts behind the scene, and probably these are all the same server. They are taking control of the server and boom, hacking everything. Okay. Anyway, let's come back, and this is how you can use Google Hack Database to find anything to hack or even for a password. You can see there are a lot of finding passwords. Google Docs. Actually, this one is called as Google Docs, and when I hit this one, for example, let's find an SQL connection password on the internet. Oh, we have a problem with that. What's happening here? Okay. Okay. So I think some people are doing mistake to hide their web.config file, and some developer may see that this includes a lot of sensitive data. And anyway, so I think you got the idea how we can use Google to hack a site. Okay, and people are using this one. And when, let's say, your customer is actually abc.com, then you can put an at the end saying site column abc.com. Okay, this is how you can find some of the vulnerabilities on Google. This is one of the passive scanning. The other passive scanning is, as I already mentioned, the Maltego. When you hit Maltego, okay, let me close this one and start from the beginning. Okay, discard all. Okay, this one is actually used for information gathering. This is one of the passive scanning and really useful one. And we usually use this information for the combination of other services like Have I Been Pwned, email leakages, and all of them. And let's wait for it to show up. By the way, you need to register for that. If you missed that part, please go ahead, Maltego, continue with the wizard, and when you choose Company Stalker, it's asking you to register for Patera security. Patera, okay. So it's this one to show up. Okay, good. So I click Company Stalker, next, domain name. Is there any candidate to be hacked here? Companies? Is there any candidate? Let me choose my old company. You want to hack my old company? No, don't do that, please, because we still have a partnership with my old company, okay? So, vga.com.tr, my old company, it's a penetration testing company. So, we would like to hack this company and we need some passwords for that, right? Because if we get some password, we can use that password to, get some more information on the local network. Maybe they may include some more password in their email accounts, because we believe that people are sending passwords via email because they believe that the email is private area, right? Yeah. So it's a big mistake. Unfortunately, it's not. So when I run this, Maltego is actually bringing me a lot of information. Sorry for the resolution. Let's get rid of this and give enough room for these guys. Okay. Okay, good. There you go. Now, bj.com.tr, which includes a lot of email addresses. As you can see, Hamza Samliolu, Onur, and advisors, Soma, and all of the stuff. And you can see my name also, Camden.Golikbas at bj.com.tr. So I have a lot of email addresses, but who cares? And I mean, we need password. I can't do anything with email addresses. So how can I find passwords? Actually, people are doing a really stupid mistake. That is, they're using the same password for different email accounts. Okay, we know that, and I believe that there are at least half of this classroom using the same password for different accounts. Okay, yeah. So we believe that, and also hackers know that. Okay. So I need to find camden.bolikbas at bga.com.tr. Where can I find that? Actually, we have a database for that, but it's not publicly available, of course. But I'll bring you one of the publicly available one too. It is actually Have I Been Pwned. Have you ever seen this site before? You are going to be surprised. At least half of this class is going to be surprised. And please visit this site and search your email address, your favorite email address. Okay, let's see what you are going to see. HaveIBeenPwned.com. Okay, this site is also providing the very similar services, and actually they're providing you that you can check your email address whether you are hacked or not. Okay, let me check my email address because I would like to have this email address, right? Camden.bolikbas at bj.com.tr. Okay, let's do this way. bj.com.tr. Okay, hit enter. Good news, nobody hacked me. Yeah, that's good, but we are penetration tester and we need the password of this guy. Unfortunately, we couldn't find anything. Do you have any idea how can we get the password of this guy? Any suggestion? Since we have a query window, we can ask for the email address and we can find that whether it's hacked or not. If it is hacked, I can find the source and I can find the password. So account. Okay, this is his personal email address. Oh no, oh no. LinkedIn, Lizard Squad, MySpace, Tumblr, paste links, oh a lot. Yeah, actually there are more. This database is not that big since they have they don't have access to every single database. So we have a plenty of bigger database. I have 11 hacked passwords on the internet. That's not my fault, by the way. MySpace is hacked and I use a strong password, but unfortunately, these stupid people don't use an password hashing and swapping mechanism. So my password is known by hackers. And also the Tumblr, it's not also my fault. LinkedIn is another problematic one. But if you have this breach in your hand, you can find the password. Does anybody have any email leakage dump or the breach in their hand? This is actually available on the internet. You can find it, but you need to really dig the internet. You need to use Tor network. You need to use hacker sites and leak forms a lot. But in most cases, since being a penetration tester, you know which sites actually share this kind of stuff. Of course, it's not a part of our program, but I have these databases in my hand. I can easily find his password, but there's an easier way. This one includes actually 164 million email and passwords. This one, it's the gigantic one. Actually, it includes, where is MySpace? Okay, 360 million. Wow, it's a big database, email and password. But there are a couple of, you see that, links available. Let's click on that. See that? It's a paste bin link. Let's click on this one and this one. Oh my goodness, it's deleted. Anyway, okay. I wish, let's see. Okay. Okay. Let me see whether it's available. Good. Now, first of all, this is another part. You click on a link. It should include the password, but it's unfortunately not available. And this may happen, frequently. Okay. So, but there were passwords. How can I find this? There has to be a way of finding this password. So there is another method for finding a deleted page, archive.org. Okay. Archive.org is actually taking a snapshot of a web page from time to time. So if you're lucky, you can find a snapshot of websites in the history. So when I search for this Pastebin link, I found a copy for that. Okay. So my password should be somewhere here. Let's find that. There you go. There you go. See that? Yeah, it's a stupid simple password. By the way, it's my public password. I deliberately give it to be hacked. And it's not my password, of course. But for the training purposes, I need to put some passwords available on the internet. So you can use that password to hack me, but no way. Secondly, I never ever use the same password for different accounts. Okay. Third, I always use a strong password, and my password is usually it's 10 characters. Okay. So we found the password of this guy, so I can use this password for BJ account, right? If I have this, if I am lucky, I can find more password in that account and I can continue with that one. So as you can see, I didn't touch anything on target system, but I found the key, right? See that? So if you're lucky, you can use Google Hack Database to find any vulnerable server of the target system. Second, if you're lucky, you can find some leaked email and password available on the internet. Even if you're not lucky to find this source, you can even use the archive.org or you can use the other bridges. And we didn't look at the LinkedIn and MySpace and all of them. I strongly advise you to change your password at least 6 months, every 6 months, because these breaches happens every let's say every week. In this week, actually, people are saying that there are 200 million Yahoo passwords are hacked. Okay, we are trying to find that whether it's a really rumor or real, but there is a saying that 200 million Yahoo accounts are leaked. So we find a way to hack this bjcom.tr company. Yeah. Pardon me? I think Verizon. Yeah. Yeah. Do you think Verizon did that?
Is it recommended to use like a password manager?
I don't recommend actually. I advise you to find a password in your mind and use an algorithm for that website. Actually, I'm using an algorithm to generate the passwords on the web page. Let's say the first character of the URL, last character of the URL, and the first character on the web page, and the last character on the, let's say, at the end of the page. I'm using them, I'm shifting, so I can find my password. But it sometimes causes a problem. If they change the design of the page, unfortunately, I can't find my password. So, any other question so far? So good. So after that, we will start with active scanning. I mean, we are going to hit our target system. So this one is passive. Let's say we couldn't find any email and password to access this machine. So how can we run a passive active scanning? We will start with a port scan. We will continue with the script scan. We will continue with this other vulnerability scanning tools to access our target machine. So let's have a 10 or 15 minutes break, and in this break, I strongly advise you to meet with each other. And if you have any question for me, please don't hesitate. I'll be here and to chat with you. And you can have some coffee, and I don't know whether tea is available, but there is an coffee machine available right there. So feel free for 15 minutes. Okay. Okay. If you're a company and it's a small advertisement only, we're providing a kind of passive threat scanning for a company, and including the 15 different categories and more than 400 controls. And we're actually providing discovery, attack surface discovery, DNS help, passive vulnerability scanning, leaked email discovery, web ranking, and insider threats, and all the document sharing. Maybe on GitHub there might be some source code disclosure. There are a lot of passive threat scanning attack vectors available on the internet, and running a manual analysis for that takes a lot of time. So, but as a penetration tester, you may sometimes need this one, or even your company may need some score chart. So we actually providing this without touching their environments. Even we can become a domain administrator without touching their environment. So, yeah. So this is how a passive scan result can be. Okay. Now let's get started with active scan. So can I see hands on how many people have this environment? Dbox, Metasploitable, and Kali Linux and internet connection. Good number. Very good. So first of all, we are going to find the targets on our, let's say we decided to hack this bja.com.tr and we couldn't find any password. We need to hack a system. We need to, exploit a target system. But first of all, discovery. Okay, we have no idea whether they have this vulnerable system. So first of all, we need to discover those systems. Second, we need to find the open ports on that target system. Then we are going to find the versions on that target system. After that, we are going to take a look at the vulnerability. So the actual this one is used for exploitation, okay? But never ever start with a penetration test with Metasploit, okay? It's a really heavy weapon. If you just start with this heavy weapon to your custom system, it's going to hurt their system. So it's not a good best practice. So we should start with an scanning. First, we are going to run a ping sweep. Then we are going to run a port scan. Then service version. Vulnerabilities actually belong to a service. Okay, vulnerability never stands for a, let's say, port. Let's say this 80 port is vulnerable. No, there's no saying that. Actually, we say that on this 80 port there is an application server running, let's say Apache version ... It is vulnerable. Okay, this is how we define the vulnerability. So let's start with scanning our Bbox machine. So which tool we are going to use? It is a famous one, Nmap. Nmap is actually network mapping. It is really old but very cool stuff for scanning purposes. When you hit Nmap standalone, it's going to give you the help. But it's a really good habit that if in Linux environment, when you put in -- help, it's going to bring you the help. So this might be a little bit scary because if you're not familiar with Linux environment, if you see something, a lot of these, garbage words, it might be sometimes scary, but forget about that. This includes very useful information. It's just saying that, hey, this script is actually taking a couple of parameters, saying that it starts with Nmap, and it includes scan types. It should include some options and the target specification. If the script is expecting you this parameter, it's going to be explained in the rest of the help, okay? So it's actually only a matter of reading the help. So what is this target specification? It is explained here. Target can be hostname or IP address. Okay, my hostname Oh, wait a minute, I don't know my host name or even the IP address. So, yeah, we need to discover that. We are going to come to that point in a minute. Okay, we can use the domain name or even the IP range or subnet. Okay, that's also good. Yeah, even you can use a list of assets for, let's say, for example, running a penetration test and your customer saying that, hey, I have a bunch of servers to be run, but unfortunately it's not an, let's say, subnet, or it's on a list. So you should use this list, reading the list functionality, or even you can exclude something because you don't want to hurt that, let's say, fragile system. Okay, the other one is host discovery. How can I discover the target host? As you can see, there is a ping scan for that. Okay, this is one of the famous ones. It's actually pinging the target, detecting the server. So let's open another window and define the target. First of all, find the target. And in the console, you can use Control Shift T to open a new tab. Okay. Discovering a target system in your environment, usually we prefer, if it's a local network, we use NBT scan. Okay, when you hit enter, it's going to bring you the help. It is also include some bunch of help, but it's easy to use. You actually give them there are a couple of examples at here. NBT scan range this guy. Okay. So I am going to run NBT. Let me put it on top so all of you can see that. NBT scan -R. So what is my range of IP address? I'm going to scan a target, but I don't know the IP range. How can I find that? It's easy. For example, let's find a company. Who should be the candidate? Don't worry about that. I'm not going to hack. Okay, is there any company to be candidate? Let's use Bank of America. Bank of America, okay, .com. So this is their domain and this is one of their web application. Just copy this and let's ping that. Okay, I don't expect to be pingable, but I found an IP address, right? If I copy this, or even I don't have to use the web application, but I can use whois to this IP address. Okay, when I hit enter, I can see in the details it is actually assigned to. Where's my cursor? Okay. No, it's not assigned to Bank of America. Actually, it's INABlock. Let's use Arden. Yeah, find it. Whoa. Is this true? Come on. Wow, 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 wow. This Bank of America has a really, really big IP ranges. Yo, that's good. But at least we found the IP ranges. We can use either the console, but console is giving me that it's actually on INABlock. INABlock means that there is another site actually hosting the information since our whois cannot find. And that means there are some registered internet what's that? Regional internet registries. Okay, Africa, Afrinic, are in North America. LATMIC is Latin America and Caribbean, RIPE for Europe and the other. Okay, so we believe that Bank of America is in the United States, so it's a good idea to look at an RN site. Okay, that's why I just jumped to RN and searched for that. If you were, let's say, searching for, let's say, Bank of the Netherlands, you are going to use which one? Right, yes, that's true. Good. So the IP address range is this one. Okay, you can use for Nmap to scan a target, but in our environment, it's a local network. So you can't find the IP address in either RN or whois database, right? So how can I find find an local IP range on this system. So we are going to use NBT scan. Let's start with our IP range, okay? Because we believe that we are on the same network since it's a local network, right? You see, if it is in the local network, probably we are in the same network, and I can find my IP range by typing if config, and it is saying that, oops, sorry, it is saying that 172.16.52 216 is my IP address. Probably my neighbors should be in this IP range, or maybe the next blocks, okay? If you don't have any idea of where this local IP net, you still have a limited scope, okay? Since in the local network, either it starts with 10 dot something something something, 192.168 something, or 172.116 slash, but this one is actually slash 12. Okay, so we still can find that there are a number of ranges, but we would like to narrow the scope. So let's run this NBT scan on this IP range. But please use your own range, okay? In my environment, it's actually /32 because I can see that the net mask is 255, okay? Which means it's actually /24 because every 255 means 8. 888 means 24, okay? So we have 24-bit subnet, and if I run this on NBT network, and this NBT scan in our network, bingo, we found some machines, okay? MacBook, Metasploitable, VBUX, Tandem Win7, and the other one is actually the Gateway, I think. Oh, it's broadcast. So, MacBook Pro definitely is not target. Please stay away from that. So, our target is VBUX. What's the IP address of that? It is, let me just make it smaller because this one eating some part. Okay, now you can see that. Okay, VBUX has 172.16.52 and 190. Has everybody found their VBUX IP address without visiting and typing ifconfig in the VBUX? Has everybody found that? Good, good. So let's continue. So we have our target in our hand, and it has IP address, this one. Okay, and I'm going to use this IP address for my Nmap scan, okay? But, okay, I already covered this target specification. I have already done this host discovery. So let's continue, scan type and options, okay? What is scan types? And actually they are explained in the rest of the help. It's saying that there are a couple of scanning techniques in Nmap. One of the famous one is dash small s and capital S, okay? Which means you are going to use SYN-SCAN. What is SYN-SCAN stands for, okay? Actually, you're sending a SYN and expecting a SYNAC for that. And as you should know, in TCP IP network, every TCP connection, let's say this one is client and this one is server, or other peer, it doesn't matter. If you send a SYN request, SYN package to a target, you should get a SYN plus ACK, okay? If the port is available, okay? Let's say port 80. If you send a SYN and you get a SYNAC, that means that port is open. If you send a SYN and you get nothing, or you get a reset, that means what? Close, right? Yes, good. So actually, this is usually called as half scan, okay? Because you are not actually fully connecting to a target. We are not sending them a ACK, okay? If you send them another ACK to target, which means you are completing the TCP three-way handshake, that is to say that, hey, I am ready to communicate with you, but in scanning, you should stay away sending the third package, okay? Because if you send that ACK, you are violating one of the famous rule of penetration testing. That is code by firewall, okay? Your firewall already logged you because when you send that ACK, you are actually assigning a port on the target machine. If you assign a port on a target machine, firewalls logs you. How about half scan? When I send SYN, does firewalls log that? Not always, because if they log every SYN packages, that's another problem. I can send hundreds of thousands of billions of SYN packages to a target. If you are logging all of them, you are going to be under denial of service attack. Okay, so usually firewalls stay away from logging every single SYN packages. So that's a good idea to start with SYN scan because it gives you the idea to identify the open ports and you can evade from the firewalls. Okay, so this is our first candidate. The other one is ST. ST is actually full connect. Okay, that means send the third package. Okay, SYN, get SYNAC and send another ACK. That means you are making sure that you have a really, a connection. In some cases, when you run a SYNAC, you may get a wrong result because there might be some reverse proxies in front of you, or you are behind a proxy server. In those cases, you may get a wrong result, so you may have to use full connect scan in some cases. Yeah. Pardon me? Yeah, actually, I'm going to give a very similar example, but let's, for this moment, keep it simple. Okay. So this one is actually SA means scan for all, or X scan. Let me see. Okay, it's X scan. SA means that you're sending an ACK package to target. Okay, you're here. Let's clean up this one. You're sending an ACK package. Is there anything wrong with sending ACK package to a target? This is the first package and you are sending an ACK package to a target. Is this okay? No, because in TCP definition, you just can't send an ACK package to a target system. It's not usual. You should start with SYN, then you should get a SYNAC, then you should send an ACK, then you should do something. So, why I should send an ACK package to a target? Why Nmap has this feature? Because if the AD port, let's say AD available, if you send an ACK, it's going to send you saying that, let's say, reset or something like that, okay? But if the port is not available, or you may get an, let's say, TCP out of package, maybe. It's a kind of, I believe that, let me see, out of sequence, TCP out of sequence package, but I don't know the package definition. But if it is there is a firewall, if you send an ACK package, firewall usually do not log every single ACK packages because it's usually for the synchronization check. That's another method to avoid from firewalls. The other ones, window and mesoscan, we never use that, so forget about that. This one, SYN scan, full connect scan, and X scan is that we are going to use. The other one is UDP, because some people are opening the UDP ports from the to internet, so that might be a good idea to scan. We are going to cover the others, but for this moment, let's keep it simple. These three things are going to be our band. And the other important parameter is the port, okay? Since we are scanning a target, we have to say a port. You can define a port minus P and say the port, let's say range, but also you can use a dash top ports and number of top ports, okay? I'm going to give the two of them example, and if you don't know giving the port range, you can just pick it. Let's say I would like to start top, let's say 1,000 ports, okay? Then you can, the output, you can, where is it? Okay, you can format the output, or even you can use some other features to evade firewalls and IPS devices, but these are a little bit advanced topics. Let's start with simple ones because these are a little bit more escaping from the firewalls. Okay, Let's use our very simple example. Nmap, could you please scan my target, which is actually this IP address, and I want you to scan port, let's say 22. Okay? This is a very simple port. I mean, let's say XS and B double S. I mean capital S. Okay. So, which means I'm going to scan port 22 with SYN-SCAN. What's actually it's doing that, sending a SYN packet expecting a SYNAC from this IP address. And if it gets the reply, it's going to say that, hey, this port is open. See that? SSH port is open. That's very good start. Okay, let's continue with a little bit complex ones, huh? So I would like to run a number of ports. Let's say 22, 80, 443, let's say 880, 8445, 443. Okay, let's scan these guys. Good. I found a little bit more open ports available for this system. So, but as you can see, I put a long list at here, and even this is only includes, let's say, 5 ports. What if I would like to scan 1,000 ports? Should I write? No, you don't have to. And since Nmap have a very good feature for that, you can say that, hey Nmap, could you please scan this guy with top ports, let's say 1,000. Okay, so you don't have to mention the ports. It actually has a prioritized list. It's going to scan with this 1,000 port, and if you don't mention anything, it's going to run an, I believe it's going to run connect scan. Okay, let's see. I'm not sure, but okay, yeah, it's a SYN-SCAN. So yeah, our man has a lot of open ports, right? It has FTP, NetBIOS, login, shell, and all of them, they're available. So this seems a little bit vulnerable machine because usually you should not see this much open ports. So what I would like to see is, I only scan for 1,000 ports, but I would like to scan for whole ports. How can I do that? There's an easy way to do that. If you say only P dash this way, it's going to scan for all ports. And if you scan for 65,000 different ports, you have to wait for that. Okay? And this is only a single machine, by the way. Even it's going to take approximately 1 minute. If you run this for, let's say, a C-class IP ranges, it's going to take a lot of time. Oh, too fast. Okay, that's good. Since we are in NAT environment, that's might be. And also, I have a SSD disk. Might be there's another problem. The reason. So we are in good shape, and we see that there are a couple of ports available also. So we didn't see this port, right? I mean, this one. Okay. So anyway, we already found the open ports, but we have no idea which services are available for this one. I already deleted that one. Okay. So we already discovered our living IP addresses. We already find some open ports. Now I would like to run a version scan because I need to get the the versions of these guys. So in order to do that, I will use, instead of S, I will say V, which means run a version scan for me. Okay. This is going to take a little bit longer time. Let's wait for that. It will take approximately a minute. And after that, I'm going to find an open ports on Metasploitable and give me a shell. Okay, you have to hack this metasploitable box. Okay. Oh yeah, there are a lot actually. If you visit this site, for example, uh, hack me. Let me find that. The House of Rising Sun Bugs. Hack me. Hack me open audio. Hack me. Start page. Hack me challenge. Yeah, this one bug bounty program and also let me see. One app. Okay. Hack me challenge. You can hack these guys and start with hacking them, but this is going to be a little bit advanced for you. It includes nothing, as you can see, and you should find a way to hack these guys. And this one, actually, this is my favorite. Vulnhack. It actually includes a lot of hackable systems. Okay, they are deliberately vulnerable, but sometimes they are, intermediate, advanced, but some of them are really easy to hack. So you can download some system and try to hack them. And actually, I would like you to hack a system by using the same technique. So it's going to take a little bit time, I think. So I want you to scan this metasploitable. Okay. I want you to find the open ports, and there is a port which includes a really interesting service version, and you are going to see the service version after this scan completes. And I want you to find that service version, and I want you to conquer and own that metasploitable machine. Okay, I want you to hack that machine actually. Okay, let's start. Scan metasploitable. Okay, just give me a minute. Let me explain this one. Then you are good to go. Okay. So this one, let's see. OpenSSH, Postfix, Apache version this one, Samba, Apache, Exec Shell. These are interesting protocols. This CC, wow, that's interesting. It seems at least. VNC, Nginx, like HTTP. Oh, there are a lot of services, and we have the service version numbers, right? You can search for the exploits for that. For example, let me search for this one, this CC. Where can I search for that? Google. And also you can use exploit DB. Okay. So where is it? This CC vulnerability. Okay, good. So it includes an vulnerability. This is another story. We are going to exploit this guy actually, and it says that hey, this CC execute includes some vulnerability. If it is actually the version the matches with our vulnerable version, we can exploit this CC's instance. But for this moment, we are not going to cover the exploitation. But we can find that if there is something really interesting, we can use that and we can own that machine. Actually, on hacking terminology, owning a machine usually called as pounding machine. Okay. I want you to pound the metasploitable. Okay, let's start. How many people have metasploitable running on their machine? Okay, gentlemen, start, please. Scan metasploitable, find the open ports, find the versions, and give me the shell. Okay. If you need help, please don't hesitate to ask me, okay? Let me start the scan. First of all, how can I discover the IP address of metasploitable? Tell me, people. NBT scan. Okay. 24. Actually, I already run that, but let's get it. Okay, this is metasploitable, and this is the IP address. Let's run nmap scan for that. Nmap minus s version scan, please. This IP address. Oh, that's good. And what else? Minus p minus. Okay. I want you to run a full port scan for this metasploitable machine. So let's expect the result. While it's starting scanning, I want to run an interesting script at here. Okay. Where is the results? As you can see, version scanning takes a lot of time. So you need to run a version scan for a target machine if you're 100% sure that, hey, yeah, this is my target. I would like to use this machine because it seems, a little bit old machine. It includes a lot of old stuff. So it's a good idea to run a version scan. Otherwise, if you run a version scan for Bank of America range, see, what is that? Okay, to this range, you have to spend your next month to result to show up. Okay, so stay away from the version scanning of a really big, IP subnets. Come on. Good. We have the results. It includes a lot of open ports. So tell me which one could be a good candidate for accessing the machine. The easiest ones. FTP, yeah, but that might be. But remember, being a root from FTP server requires an exploitation. I want you to find the simplest way. So tell me another. SSH, Telnet, yeah, those are two candidates. Good. Continue, please. Login. Yeah, maybe. See that interesting one? Sure. That's why it was Structure. What the hell is that? That's an interesting one. So let's start with, first of all, Telnet, okay? Telnet is usually a vulnerable service too, because in the banner, that might include some cool stuff. So I want to telnet to this IP address. When I hit enter, come on, I am having difficulty to get the results. Good. It says Metasploitable. Can I log in? It's asking me a password. So how can I find the passwords? I can use Maltego and searchers, but this one is even easier. Log in with MSF admin. Of course, it's a deliberately given, MSF admin. Good. We have a shell now, but I want to be root. How can I become a root? Sudo su. Okay, it's asking me the passwords. Let's use this one again. There you go. I am now root. Okay, perfect. I already hacked this machine, but I want to find another interesting one. And this one is actually, the interesting one is this. 1524. How can I connect to this shell? Do you have any idea? Telnet, yeah, it's also another way to connect that. Telnet. This IP address from port 1524. Okay, hit enter. What the heck? It's not asking passwords. It's just giving you a root shell. So it's easy, but this one is actually deliberately given you as a vulnerable. But for learning purposes, running an Nmap scan, finding the ports, and it's a really good example. So even using an Nmap, it's sometimes possible to hack some routers and IP cameras on the internet. You can't believe that there are a lot of machines you can use Nmap to hack them. So before finishing this session, I would like to show you something. Since let's get rid of this. I want to run a port scan to my Kali Linux machine. Okay. So the IP address is 162.216. Okay. Copy this IP address, and I want to run a port scan from my host because Nmap, and I want to run a scene scan. Oops, actually it's not Nmap. User local /bin/ Unfortunately, Nmap is not has a right name for me. Oops, what happens? Okay, I think I have this. Okay, good. Now, okay, and let's say -- top report ports 1000. Okay, let's run a port scan for my target machine and see how many ports are open. Pardon me? It's under my local user local bin Nmap. Wow! See the results? Wow! Come on, it's not possible. Do you think I have this many open ports? No way! I shouldn't have at least. But sometimes, if you run a port scan, you can see something similar to this. Do you know what is this? It's actually faking an Nmap. If you run a port scan on a target, sometimes target system may run another program because they believe that you are going to run an Nmap scan to their targets. Because I sometimes advise to our customers, and please run this program on your machine. So if they run a port scan, they are going to see a lot of results. Hey, there are a lot of ports open. Really? No, it's not. It's just faking you. It is, since Nmap is running and sending a scene to a target, this program is actually thinking that, hey, here is your CNAC. Deal with it. So the problem is, it's not actually open port. It's actually faking you. So you can't distinguish open and closed ports. So this is one thing you should keep in mind. Keep in your mind. So you may think that, hey, I can send a version scan. So even if you send me a CNAC, how about the rest of the TCP communication? You should send me something if I run a version scan, right? Let's say 100, top 100 ports, and I want to run a version scan. I would like to keep the scope small because it's taking time. It's going to give the message at least. Okay. It should be 100 and it should be finished in a minute, approximately. It's taking time. Let's wait for a while. So, does anybody have an idea what's happening out there? Yeah, exactly. This program is also have a capability to confuse Nmap. Okay, it's sending a garbage package to Nmap saying that, hey, I have this version number, and Nmap is trying to make sure that, hey, do you really have this version number? It says that, hey, you actually have this version number. Nmap is trying to identify that version number. So if you are in a position that you found a lot of open ports, and if your Nmap result is not returning back, even of a small scope, that means you are you have a really difficult target. Okay, then you should call me. Okay, okay guys. So as you can see, the result is actually a garbage. It's not actually a version. It's just confusing the Nmap. So this is going to be the end of this session. Do you guys have any words to say, Jennifer? Where's Jennifer? Please write it down somewhere and send me an email if you need any support, or if you have any opportunity for your company or your customers. We have a continuous scanning capability. This NormShield platform actually has a really extensive capability to continuous penetration testing and all of this stuff. Maybe in the next week I can talk about that a little bit, because in this week I don't want to spend a lot of time for advertisement. Maybe the next week. Okay, thank you, people. Okay, see you next week.